Elon Musk strode into the packed courtroom with a calm, unshakable confidence, his sharp eyes scanning the room as Judge Thomas Harper slammed his gavel down with a smirk that sent a ripple of tension through the crowd. "Order," the judge barked, his voice echoing. But Musk didn't even flinch. His presence alone commanded attention. Judge Harper's eyes narrowed as he stared at the billionaire. "Mr. Musk," he sneered, his tone biting with disdain. "You've spent your life breaking every rule you can find, but today, the law will finally put you in your place." The room buzzed with excitement, cameras flashing like a storm, reporters scribbling, everyone eager to witness the moment they thought Musk would be humbled. Hey, viewers, what would you do if you were Elon Musk, walking into a courtroom where everyone's already counting you out? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This is going to be an epic showdown. The prosecutor, a polished lawyer named Michael Evans, stood with a smug grin, certain this case would be a career-defining takedown of Musk. The audience, journalists, business leaders, and curious onlookers who'd come to see the drama, thought the billionaire didn't stand a chance against the legal system. They were wrong. Elon Musk sat down with a steady gaze, his hands resting confidently on the table, a faint smirk tugging at his lips, as if he already knew how this would end. Judge Harper's smirk sharpened. "I hope you're ready, Mr. Musk," he said, his voice heavy with mockery. "This isn't one of your online games. This is my courtroom, and you'll play by my rules." Laughter erupted through the room, but Musk's expression didn't waver. He leaned back slightly, his eyes locked on the judge with a quiet intensity that made the air feel heavier. Then, after a moment of charged silence, Musk spoke. His voice was clear and commanding, slicing through the tension like a blade, and his words made the entire courtroom fall silent. The laughter stopped instantly. Michael Evans's confident grin faded in a heartbeat. Even Judge Harper's smug expression wavered. He wasn't laughing anymore. No one could have predicted what was coming next. Michael Evans adjusted his tie with a quick, nervous tug, stepping toward the jury with a confidence that now seemed a little shaky. He'd done this countless times, but Musk's unshakable demeanor was throwing him off. "Ladies and gentlemen," he started, pointing at Musk, "we're here today because this billionaire thinks he's bigger than the law." He turned sharply to Judge Harper, his eyes intense but flickering with unease. "The evidence against Mr. Musk is airtight. His company broke the rules knowingly, ignored every legal step they were required to take, and showed no respect for the laws that keep our society fair for everyone." Judge Harper nodded slowly, a smirk still lingering on his face. He leaned forward slightly. "Mr. Musk, I assume you understand how serious these accusations are, don't you?" he asked, his tone sharp and taunting. Musk didn't respond right away. He tilted his head slightly, his faint smirk still in place, as if he were sizing up the prosecutor like a chess opponent. Michael Evans pressed on, flipping through his papers with a dramatic flair that felt forced now, trying to capture the jury's attention. "Your Honor, this isn't just a small mistake by a business. This is a textbook case of someone ignoring the law on purpose. Mr. Musk has built his entire career on pushing every boundary he can. But today, he's finally met a wall he can't break: the law." The courtroom buzzed with murmurs again, the tension climbing higher. Judge Harper let out a small chuckle. "Mr. Musk, are you going to speak up for yourself, or do we need to teach you how a courtroom works?" More laughter echoed through the crowd, but Musk remained unfazed, his calm demeanor almost unsettling. Michael Evans jumped at the chance to pile on. "Your Honor, the defendant seems awfully relaxed. Maybe he thinks this is just another public event where he can talk his way out of trouble. But today, we're dealing with facts, not online popularity contests." Judge Harper's grin stretched wider. "I have to say, Mr. Musk, I'm curious," he said, his voice teasing. "Do you actually have a plan to defend yourself, or are we all here to watch you try to turn this into a spectacle?" The jury members exchanged glances, already thinking this case would be an easy win for the prosecutor. Another wave of chuckles filled the room. Michael Evans turned back to the judge, his voice firm but tinged with nervousness. "Your Honor, we ask the court to recognize the undeniable evidence against Mr. Musk and take swift action." Judge Harper nodded, tapping his gavel lightly on the desk. "Mr. Musk, I suggest you say something soon, before I start wondering if you even belong in this courtroom." For the first time, Musk moved with purpose. He took a slow, deliberate breath, adjusted his jacket with a casual confidence, and stood up tall, his presence filling the room. What he said next would turn the entire case upside down. Elon Musk rose to his feet in the courtroom, his presence commanding every eye in the room as he adjusted his jacket with a sharp, deliberate tug. A confident smirk danced on his lips as he locked eyes with Judge Thomas Harper. "Your Honor," Musk began, his voice ringing with unshakable certainty, tinged with a playful edge. "I have to thank the prosecutor for giving us all such a dramatic performance." Gasps echoed through the courtroom, the jury leaning forward in their seats, stunned by his boldness. Judge Harper's smirk vanished, replaced by a flicker of unease in his eyes. Musk wasn't here to back down. He was here to dominate. With the ease of a seasoned speaker, Musk began pacing the floor, his steps slow and purposeful, like a lion circling its prey. "Everyone in this room keeps going on about rules, laws, and how I've supposedly insulted the system," he said, his tone sharp and commanding, slicing through the tension. "But here's the thing. They're all assuming the system actually makes sense." The prosecutor, Michael Evans, let out a sharp, nervous laugh, trying to cut through Musk's momentum. "Is that your big defense, Mr. Musk?" he snapped, his voice cracking slightly. "That the law doesn't make sense?" Musk spun around to face him, his smirk growing wider, his eyes flashing with intensity. "No," he shot back, his voice like steel. "My defense is that you don't even understand the law you're trying to pin on me." The courtroom went dead silent, the air crackling with anticipation. Judge Harper leaned forward, his curiosity battling with his earlier confidence. Musk grabbed a thick legal document from the table, holding it up like a trophy as he flipped through the pages with a dramatic flair. "This entire case is based on the claim that my company broke the rules," he said, his voice booming with authority. "But let's dig into those rules for a second, shall we?" He paused, his eyes scanning the room, letting the suspense build until you could feel it in your chest. Then he continued, "This law was written decades ago for an industry that doesn't even look the same anymore. The wording is ancient, the setup is a mess, and here's the kicker." Musk flipped a page with a theatrical snap. "It completely contradicts itself." Michael Evans stumbled back a step, his face tightening as his confidence crumbled. "That's absurd," he blurted, but his voice sounded shaky, almost desperate. Musk raised a hand, silencing him instantly. "Is it?" he asked, his tone cool but razor-sharp. "Let's break this down nice and simple. If I followed every single rule in this book, my company would actually be breaking another federal law." He turned another page with a swift motion, his movements precise and commanding. "So, Your Honor," Musk said, turning back to Judge Harper with a piercing stare, "which law should I follow? The one the prosecutor likes, or the one that says the exact opposite?" Judge Harper's face darkened, his earlier amusement gone. He grabbed his glasses, his hands trembling slightly as he scanned the page Musk had pointed out, his jaw tightening. Musk didn't let up, his voice growing even stronger. "Laws are supposed to be like science, built on principles that don't trip over each other. But this case..." Musk shook his head, letting out a small, confident laugh. "This case is a house of cards, built on nothing but contradictions." The jury members whispered to each other, their eyes wide, the mood in the room electric. Musk turned to Michael Evans, his gaze like a laser. "You thought I wouldn't know the law, didn't you? But I don't need fancy legal tricks to win this. I just need common sense." Judge Harper slumped back in his chair, his fingers drumming nervously on the desk, his earlier swagger nowhere to be found. Musk stepped closer to the judge's bench, tapping the legal document on the table with a rhythmic thud that echoed through the room. "Your Honor," he said, sliding a highlighted page toward the judge with a steady hand. "Let's take a closer look at Section 42.3 of the very law the prosecutor is hanging his whole case on." Judge Harper adjusted his glasses, his face growing more serious with every word as he read the text. Michael Evans, now visibly rattled, fumbled through his own papers, his hands shaking as he tried to keep up. Musk stood still for a moment, letting the tension simmer, his confidence radiating like a spotlight. Then he spoke again, his voice slicing through the silence. "This law," he said, pointing at the page with a sharp jab, "which the prosecutor says gives him power over my company, was written before the internet was even invented." A collective gasp swept through the courtroom, the crowd buzzing with shock. Judge Harper's eyebrows shot up, and Michael Evans opened his mouth to argue. But nothing came out, his face paling. Musk kept going, his tone calm but relentless. "Let's use some logic here," he said, almost as if he were teaching a class. "How can you control something with rules that old? It's like trying to use horse and buggy laws to regulate a spaceship. It's nonsense." Michael Evans coughed, trying to claw back some control. "Mr. Musk, that's a flimsy excuse," he said, his voice trembling. "The principles of the law still stand." Musk raised an eyebrow, his smirk flashing again. "Do they?" he countered, flipping to another page with a swift motion. "Because Section 43.1 of that same law says if a technology doesn't fit old rules, new ones have to be created before you can even think about legal action." The courtroom seemed to hold its breath, the weight of Musk's argument hitting like a tidal wave, and Evans's face turned ghostly white as he realized he'd been outplayed. The courtroom buzzed with electric tension as Elon Musk stood at the center of it all, his confident smirk unwavering. His eyes locked on the prosecutor, Michael Evans, who looked like he'd just been hit by a freight train. Musk's words had landed like a bombshell, exposing the flaws in the law Evans had built his entire case on. The jury sat on the edge of their seats, whispering to each other, while Judge Thomas Harper gripped the legal document, his face a mix of shock and frustration. Musk wasn't just defending himself, he was rewriting the rules of the game. Musk leaned forward, tapping the table with a steady, commanding rhythm, his voice calm but razor-sharp. "So, Your Honor," he said, turning to Judge Harper with a piercing gaze, "are we really here to talk about legal violations, or is this just a show to punish innovation because it doesn't fit into old, dusty rules?" The room erupted in hushed murmurs, the crowd hanging on his every word. Michael Evans scrambled to respond, his voice tight with panic. "Objection, Your Honor," he shouted, his hands trembling as he clutched his papers. "He's twisting the law with technicalities." Musk turned to Evans with a raised eyebrow, his smirk flashing with a hint of amusement. "Technicalities?" he echoed, his tone dripping with confidence. "You mean the same technicalities your whole case is built on? Funny how that works, isn't it?" The courtroom fell silent again, the air thick with anticipation. Judge Harper, who had started the day laughing at Musk, now sat forward, his expression serious, his earlier confidence shattered. Musk wasn't just playing the game. He was changing the board entirely. Musk continued, his voice steady and commanding as he flipped through the legal document with a swift, practiced motion. "Let's talk about precedent," he said, his tone almost casual, as if he were explaining something simple to a child. "In the case of Johnson versus Tech Innovations, decided right here in this very courtroom, the ruling was crystal clear. No company can be punished for operating in a legal gray area if the laws don't even cover their technology." The crowd gasped, a wave of shock rippling through the room. Judge Harper blinked, his memory jogging. He remembered that case all too well, and so did Michael Evans, whose face turned even paler. Musk delivered his next blow with precision, his voice rising with authority. "So, Your Honor," he said, pointing at the judge with a steady hand, "are we here to uphold justice, or are we just trying to punish progress because it doesn't fit into rules that haven't been updated in decades?" The courtroom seemed to hold its breath, the weight of Musk's words sinking in. The jury members exchanged stunned glances, their earlier certainty fading fast. Michael Evans clenched his jaw, his eyes darting around as he flipped through his notes in a frantic attempt to find a counterargument. But Musk wasn't done. He stepped closer to the judge's bench, his presence filling the room like a storm. "I'm not here to play games," he said, his voice booming with conviction. "I'm here to show that if you enforce one rule but ignore another that contradicts it, you're not serving justice. You're just picking winners and losers." The crowd murmured louder now, some nodding in agreement, others still in disbelief. Judge Harper rubbed his temple, his fingers trembling slightly, his mind racing as he tried to process Musk's argument. In a desperate move, Michael Evans grabbed a stack of papers and marched toward the judge's bench, his voice loud but shaky. "Your Honor," he announced, trying to sound confident, "we have new evidence. This report proves that Mr. Musk knowingly ignored the regulations. It's all right here in black and white." The crowd buzzed with anticipation, thinking this might be the prosecutor's chance to turn the tide. But Musk didn't even blink. He folded his arms across his chest, his smirk growing wider, as if he'd been waiting for this moment all along. Judge Harper raised an eyebrow, flipping through the pages Evans had handed him. "Mr. Musk," he said, his voice cautious now, "do you have anything to say about this new evidence?" Musk took a slow, deliberate step forward, his confidence unshaken. "Of course, Your Honor," he replied, his tone smooth and unshakable. "That's a very interesting report, especially since it was written after this lawsuit was filed." A ripple of gasps swept through the courtroom, the crowd buzzing with shock. Michael Evans froze, his face draining of color, realizing he'd just made a fatal mistake. Musk continued, his voice steady and commanding. "If this report was so important to their case, why is it only showing up now?" he asked, his eyes locking onto Evans with a piercing intensity. "This isn't evidence. It's a last-ditch effort to patch up a sinking ship." Judge Harper glanced at Michael Evans, his expression hardening as he waited for an explanation. The prosecutor opened his mouth, but no words came out. He had nothing left to say. Musk delivered his final jab, his tone icy with confidence. "Trying to win with desperation isn't a legal strategy, counselor. It's just a sign you've already lost." The courtroom buzzed with stunned silence as Elon Musk stood tall, his icy gaze piercing through Michael Evans, who looked utterly defeated. Musk's words, "Trying to win with desperation isn't a legal strategy, counselor. It's just a sign you've already lost," echoed like a thunderclap. The jury sat frozen, their eyes darting between Musk and the prosecutor, while the crowd whispered in awe. Judge Thomas Harper, once full of smirks, now sat deep in thought, his fingers tapping nervously, his confidence shaken by Musk's razor-sharp logic. Michael Evans gripped his papers, his face pale, his earlier swagger gone. He tried to speak, but no words came out, just a flicker of panic in his eyes. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, some nodding at Musk's brilliance. Musk turned to Judge Harper, his voice steady and commanding. "Your Honor," he said, his tone sharp, "this case isn't just about my company. It's about showing the law can't pick and choose what to enforce." Judge Harper exhaled, rubbing his temple, his mind racing. He had thought Musk was just another rich businessman, but now he wasn't so sure. Musk pointed at the legal document, his presence dominating the room. "If you enforce one rule but ignore another that contradicts it," he said, "you're not serving justice. You're playing favorites." The crowd buzzed, some agreeing, others in disbelief. Judge Harper leaned back, his eyes on Musk, a mix of disbelief and respect in his gaze. "Mr. Musk," he said, his voice softer, "I underestimated you. I thought you were all money, no sense. But you've made me rethink everything." The tension hit a peak, the jury exchanging stunned glances. Judge Harper spoke again, his tone firm. "This court thought your actions were reckless, maybe illegal," he said. "But your arguments show that's not true. The prosecutor's evidence has been shaky, even misleading." He glared at Evans, who shrank under the look. Musk stood calm, his smirk subtle. He knew this was coming. Judge Harper tapped his gavel. "The court finds no grounds to proceed," he declared. "Mr. Musk, you're free to go." The room erupted in gasps. Evans's face drained of color, but Musk adjusted his jacket with a casual confidence, ready to walk out victorious. The courtroom burst into chaos as Judge Thomas Harper's gavel slammed down. "Court dismissed," he shouted, his voice laced with disbelief. Elon Musk stood unfazed, slipping on sunglasses with a cool flick of his wrist, his smirk steady as he walked toward the exit. Reporters swarmed, cameras flashing, voices shouting, "Mr. Musk, how does it feel to win?" Musk turned, his grin sly. "Feels like logic won," he said, his tone unshakable, before stepping outside. The scene outside was a frenzy. Microphones everywhere, headlines flashing. "Musk beats the system." The win wasn't just a victory for Musk. It shook the legal world. Experts debated on TV, pointing out flaws Musk exposed. Lawyers rethought their cases, wondering what they'd missed. Inside the empty courtroom, Judge Harper sat, still stunned. "He made us question everything," he later said, respect in his voice. For Musk, it was just another day, his mind already on the next challenge. Musk's triumph sparked a bigger conversation. The law needed to evolve, just like tech. News outlets asked, how many laws were outdated? How often did the system stifle innovation? Musk became a symbol. If he could beat the system, what about regular people who couldn't? His win raised questions. Should laws keep up with technology? How many lose because they can't fight back? Musk had started a movement, challenging old rules one argument at a time. Do you think laws should keep up with technology, or should tradition stay in place? And if you were in Musk's shoes, would you take on the system like he did? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to know what you think about this story.